Thanks for being with us. John Fredericks Radio Network. Let's go to Congressman, 9th District, Republican Morgan Griffith. Congressman, great to have you.
Great to be with you.
Why can't businesses open now?
Well, it's a good question.
Thank you.
And certainly, in my end of the state, we've been arguing that for months, that there ought to be at least a regional approach, and the governor would never agree to that. Now he's going to a regional approach, with the exception of Northern Virginia. We're going to phase 2, but there's still so many things that you just kind of shake your head and wonder, why are we not being allowed to do that? Small businesses are being put in great risk. Big businesses are being hurt, but small businesses are at risk of never being able to come back. And, the testing is better. We're showing up more cases as a result of the testing, but the percentage of cases is going down. Hospitalizations are down. Deaths are down. And so it's a real question mark as to why we can't return to normalcy and return to, doing things that Americans like to do, particularly when we left, as you recall. We had the greatest surge in the economy that we had ever had in this country. And we had, a very, very strong economy. And now that economy is in shambles.
Well, we destroyed it ourselves. We let the bureaucrats basically take over. We let these governors get these emergency orders. This COVID-19, which is a horrible virus. I mean, people have died. I know people that have had it, including my wife. It is a nasty thing. It's horrible. The majority of people affected by this that die are over 85, and they've got compromised health. Sad, bad. They should be protected. We have to now, Congressman, call this out for what it is. Okay, we have to call it out. There's no body bags in New York City. There's no body bags in Richmond. There's no body bags on Monument Avenue. There's not a refrigeration truck there. I mean, according to these experts, we shut down because if we had a gathering like we did on Monument Avenue in Richmond or downtown, that people would die, ventilators would have to come out, and we'd have to get refrigeration trucks and body bags. None of this has happened. So we've gone from police going into homes because somebody ratted out a mom who had 3 kids over for a play day and breaking it up, to now we can have thousands and thousands of people all over the United States protest, break curfew to all hours of night, and that's fine. And now we have NPR saying that, here's NPR reports that hundreds of public health officials have condoned the protest because they say, well, that's for the right reason, therefore we should allow them. Social distancing doesn't matter if you're protesting for the right reason or rioting, but it does matter if you're taking your child to the park and you can't put them on the swings with 2 other children. Can you help me understand this?
I cannot. I don't understand it myself, and I was a little surprised that one of the things the governor apparently said in his order was playgrounds are going to remain closed. I don't get that. I don't understand that. Again, if you're in a hot spot and, you want to close the playground down at the nursing home, I got it. Nursing homes are suspect. Yesterday we had a hearing. I was in Washington, D.C. Most of the committee was spread out, particularly the Democrats, spread out across the country, doing it virtually, but we had 3 governors. And I asked about the plan that they're doing with nursing homes. And there's no question we need to be more careful in the future with our nursing home populations. Any congregate living situation, there is a danger. But it appears to be fairly much, as far as fatalities are concerned, it is confined to those people who are, 80 plus and living in congregate living, i.e. a nursing home or some type of a facility like that where, everybody is in closed space and generally doesn't get outside a lot because they're not physically capable of doing that. So that's where we need to be careful. I don't know why we continue now that the science shows us that our hospitals are ready to go. That was the original concern, as you'll recall. Are the hospitals going to be able to handle the influx? We now know the answer to that is clearly yes. And we know where the most dangerous areas are, and that would be nursing homes. There are some others, but that would be your primary area. So why aren't we focusing our regulations there? Why didn't phase 2 take us to opening up everything except those areas that are extremely dangerous? There's been no science that shows that playgrounds are hotspots or are dangerous, and yet the governor still says playgrounds are closed. I don't get it.
Closed. Baseball fields are closed. I mean, so what he did, and baseball is the easiest example for me because, as you know, my son plays it. So what they did is they're allowing practice with coaches, and of course you can have a scrimmage because you have to throw batting practice. I mean, this is so absurd. I can't even tell you with a straight face. So in the order, you can practice and do a scrimmage, right? Because you have live pitching and coaches, but you can't have a game. So if you call it a scrimmage, it's okay, but you can't have a game. What's the difference if you have a practice, a game, a scrimmage? It's on a 3-acre baseball field. The absurdity of this, the illogic of it, is beyond the pale. And you say, why are they doing it? Oh, it's simple. They're doing it to stretch out the economic pain, to justify a mail-in ballot, to steal the election and get rid of Trump. That's why they're doing this. There's no logic behind it. They got to just somehow they got to get to October so they keep the economy tanked. There's no resurgence so Trump doesn't get elected and they get rid of him. If the vaccine is Biden, he wins. The next day, Fauci will be, wow, we just got a new model, all clear. You can go to the football game. Morgan Griffith with us, Congressman, 9th District, Southwest Virginia, large district. He's up for re-election in 2020, favorite to get re-elected there. Congressman, so Mitch McConnell says he's open to legislation. Have you heard anything? What type of legislation could there be to address the tragedy that happened to George Floyd?
Well, I certainly will take a look at any legislation that comes forward, but I think this whole business of putting your knee on somebody's neck is a violation of due process. It's a violation of equal protection. And I think we should at the very least come out and just say that is illegal everywhere. We've left it up to the states and the local police departments. And, you know, I'm sure there's somebody out there who will say that they know how to do it right. But, you know, it's just not right. The risk of serious injury, loss of oxygen to the brain, and death are so high. That ought to come off the table immediately. We ought to make that a federal law as a violation of those constitutional provisions that guarantee due process and equal protection. And then I'm open to taking a look at other things because here's the problem. I understand, as you know, I'm white, but I understand the frustration. When you look at the data across the country, there are too many times that young black men are stopped or are treated differently than we think would be appropriate. And some of them are close calls. I get it. And the police officers have to make decisions in dangerous situations, so I'm not criticizing all of them. But when you look at the data as a whole, I'm of Welsh descent and some others, mixed in there, some others, but Welsh is the number one. If people were constantly having problems of Welsh descent, I'd be in the streets protesting too, so I get it. I understand that. And as a father, and I know that you have a teenage son, I have 2 boys that are, one's just about to be a teenager and the other one is a teenager. We don't have to worry like the moms of young African-American boys have to worry. And my wife was in tears yesterday. One of her high school classmates, and she went to an exclusive high school in Indiana, was on TV talking about how she teaches her sons that they have to do more than just be respectful. They can't put their registration in the glove box because a police officer might think they're going for a gun if they're just reaching for their registration. Mm-hmm. We've got to figure out how to solve that problem. I don't know that federal legislation alone can do it. It's going to take a change of attitude by a lot of people. But when it comes to putting your knee on the neck of an individual, that ought to be illegal as a form of restraint everywhere in this country. That is not a form of restraint. And here's the other thing. People don't always understand, and police officers sometimes get this mixed up too. Once you touch somebody and say you're under arrest, they're under arrest. If they run, if they haven't just beaten somebody to death with a baseball bat, if they run, you're going to be able to catch up with them. Technology is scary but amazing, and now they've got an escape charge. In this case, we're talking about Worst case scenario, a counterfeit $20 bill. Let him go if he's resisting arrest. You got him now on escape, which carries more jail time than passing a single $20 bill, which you have to prove he knew was fake. The conviction rate on that is very low. Why are they getting all worked up over it? I don't understand that, and we're going to have to do probably have to put some money into some training programs to get people to understand. If it's a small offense and they want to resist arrest, now you got them on escape. That's a much more serious charge. If they want to risk their lives and ruin their lives by running, let them go. We got to stop these deaths.
That's the first time I've heard this, and I think you're spot on with that. And you're right about, I mean, the counterfeit $20 bill. That's very difficult to prove because I can say, well, somebody gave it to me and I sold my watch. I don't know who. I just, somebody on the street, or I picked it up, or I saw it, or I got change from the CVS. I mean, there's no way. It's very difficult to do, as you said. Christine has got a question from Washington, D.C. Christine says, please ask Congressman Griffith if you can pass legislation to allow the firing of bad cops, teachers, and federal employees. For instance, there's a rumor going around that this cop was not fired, although he had 10 incidents of excessive force because the police union protected him. How do you respond to that, Congressman?
Well, we certainly could pass legislation at the federal level. We did that when we had all the problems at the VA. We passed legislation that made it easier to fire people that were doing wrong in our VA hospitals. We can do that as far as any federal employees are concerned. Hiring and firing at the states. We could perhaps say that you don't get some of your burn grant money or something like that if you don't have a policy like that. That's one of the ways we can do it. But directly, we can't do it. We could say, this money's in jeopardy if you don't have a policy that would allow you to fire somebody who's used excessive force. We can certainly take a look at that as well. But in the end, that would have to be up to the states.
All right, Congressman, I want to thank you for your time today. This is one of the best dialogues that we've had. We're finally now getting to, some things that matter. This is what we've been saying all week. Because of the looting and the fires and the stealing and the burning out businesses, there's not been a legitimate dialogue since this happened or the looting started about what the remedies are. Because until you put the fires out, you really can't talk about anything else. This is why the fact that these looters have hijacked these protests is so sad. Am I making sense at all, Congressman, on that?
You are, and I will tell you that I wish we were all meeting in D.C., because I think that people on both sides of the aisle would recognize the emotion on both sides of the aisle, that how upset people are about what happened to George Floyd. And we could actually start hammering out some legislation, not just for a news bite, but something that would actually make a difference.
Make a difference, right? Not a sound bite, but make a difference. Very well said. Congressman, thanks for being with us today. I always enjoy you coming on. And the voice of reason, District 9 Republican Morgan Griffith, thank you for being with us.